So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Roswell in the 21st century is a detailed re-examination of the Roswell UFO crash case. I have studied the evidence for more than 30 years, and I now put that evidence under a microscope in a cold case examination of the facts. These facts might not please everyone. They are based on my comprehensive investigation that took years to complete, but they do lead to the conclusion that whatever fell was not built on Earth. The best of Project Blue Book is based on the 22-year-long investigation conducted by the Air Force. But the book goes far beyond that, bringing in evidence that was uncovered long after Project Blue Book was ordered terminated. Using facts that were unavailable to the Air Force investigators, I was able to prove that the Air Force manipulated the data and drew unrealistic conclusions about the UFO sightings reported to them. My different perspective shows there was more to Project Blue Book than even the Air Force knew. Both books are available at Amazon.com.
Join Patty Conklin and Healing Within Radio each week. More than entertainment, Healing Within offers educational, useful tools for everyday life. Listen for help overcoming fear, anxiety, and depression. Patty knows about eliminating cancer, MS, dementia, Parkinson's, and a host of illnesses that we face every day. Life can be good. Life is good. All you need are simple tools to start changing your life. Start right now by visiting pattyconklin.com, PATTICONKLIN. No matter where you are in the world, you can work with Patty through Skype, phone, or in person, visiting one of her retreats in Georgia. Visit pattyconklin.com today or call our offices at 404-474-0086. That's pattyconklin.com or call 404-474-0086.
Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Hello, dear friends, and thank you for joining me, Gwilda Wiyaka, on another exciting adventure into future possibilities. This is Mission Evolution, where we share innovative viewpoints and information with today's leading esoteric and scientific experts to help guide us through challenging and rapidly changing times. You, my thoughtful audience, are a very important part of this discussion. Email info@missionevolution.org with any comments or questions. We'll discuss them on the very next show. So take notes, sit back, and enjoy. This hour, we'll be considering a very timely issue: Demystifying COVID-19, Conversations with a Biomedical Scientist. It's ironic, really. One tiny little virus has brought the entire planet to a virtual standstill and world economies crashing down. Hype, hysteria, and confusion abounds about the nature and the threat of COVID-19, with stories changing daily. With all the rapidly shifting and often conflicting information, it's nearly impossible to know how to respond in order to find safe passage. Several months back, no one would have believed it was possible. Well, almost no one. There have been those disregarded voices in the wilderness that saw this coming. One among them is today's guest. With us to discuss where COVID-19 came from and where it's going is Dr. Dennis Carroll. Dr. Carroll has a doctorate in biomedical research and with a special focus in tropical infectious diseases from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. He was a research scientist at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, where he studied the molecular mechanics of viral infection. He has over 30 years leadership experience in global health and development. Dr. Carroll served as director of the U.S. Agency for International Development's Emerging Threats Division. He was responsible for providing strategic and operational leadership for the agency's programs addressing new and emerging disease threats. He currently heads the Global Virome Project, an international partnership to build the systems and capacities to detect and characterize future viral threats. His website, globalviromeproject.org. Dr. Carroll, on behalf of our listeners and myself, thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Well, it is my pleasure to be here today.
So tell us a little about what you do as a biomedical scientist.
Well, the work that I've done over the years has really been about trying to understand how future threats, and we think specifically of viral threats, how they emerge, and use that knowledge to better direct ways of preventing that emergence and better prepare communities and societies to address them if they do emerge. So it's really been about trying to shine a light on emergence and response.
So up until recently, you served as director of U.S. Agency for International Development's Emerging Threats Division. Why did you leave that position?
Well, I had been with USAID and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for 30 years. And in that time, I had the opportunity to develop programs which really allowed us to take innovative approaches towards understanding risk and trying to better manage and prevent risk from occurring. As the programs evolved, it was clear to me that to achieve the kind of scale of impact that was needed to really prepare the world for the future of emerging viral diseases, I needed to step outside of a U.S. government venture and join with global partners to elevate future actions to one of a global scale. The work at USAID, particularly in the work around a program called PREDICT, was incredibly insightful and informative, but ultimately at a scale too small to really bend the curve of future risk. The Global Virome Project that I'm now working with is really about building on that experience that PREDICT provided us with, the insights that PREDICT provided us with, but to move it to a scale where in a much shorter period of time, within a decade, we can have built if you will, a global atlas on all future viral threats and use that knowledge to better prepare and mostly prevent the events like COVID-19 from ever happening again.
Speaking of which, were you surprised by COVID-19?
I wasn't surprised by COVID-19. No, not at all. I mean, its emergence was exactly as you would have predicted. As we've always said, an emergence of a pandemic virus was never a question of if, it is a question of when. We knew that there are certain hotspots in the world where the dynamics of emergence plays itself out much more so than elsewhere. And the regions in China clearly are a cauldron of emerging viral dynamics. And so the emergence of COVID-19, nothing surprising about its emergence, really nothing surprising about its biology. It's very much a coronavirus, a respiratory virus. The way it spreads, its the clinical implications. So it falls very much within what you would expect a new viral threat to look like.
So why is China such a hotbed for this sort of thing?
Well, the single biggest driver for viruses which at this moment circulate in wildlife, that's the natural reservoir of viruses. And it's when they spill over, that is, a virus will make a jump from a wildlife host, such as a bat, into people. The biggest single driver behind that spillover event is population pressure, where the interactive dynamics driven by population between people and wildlife is intensifying. That's where you'll see these events occur with the greatest frequency. And obviously, China, with a population of 1.3 billion people, is a region where the dynamics are playing themselves out in ways that allow for events like we see with the COVID-19 virus in ways that are very predictable.
So habitat encroachment at its finest.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
I said habitat encroachment at its finest.
Well, it is about habitat encroachment. It's about land use change more than anything else. When we look at how ecosystems are being disrupted and our footprint, our incursion into ecosystems that are the natural habitats for wildlife, it's an extraordinarily disruptive event. And
so, I've heard a lot, I think we all have, of this being a biological warfare that got out of a lab in China. What's your take on that?
Well, first off, there's been some very, very good work done doing deep genetic analysis of this virus. And there's been clear understanding that this is a natural virus. It is not one that has been subject to man-made manipulation. So it's in all likelihood a natural spillover event. But,
well, they call it a novel virus. What does that mean then?
Well, it's a novel virus to us. That's all it means. It's a virus that our bodies have never been exposed to or seen before.
Okay, and so we don't have any immunity for it.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's novel with respect to our immune system having been exposed to it and having developed some kind of natural response to it. So when viruses emerge that we have never seen before, our bodies have never been exposed to, then we are extraordinarily vulnerable. Viruses that are part of our normal landscape, we've learned to develop natural immunity against them. And when exposed, our immune systems are activated and they protect us. At some future point, COVID-19 virus, we will have some kind of collective immunity, but that won't be for many years into the future.
Well, what's the likelihood of developing a vaccine for this thing?
Well, one is hopeful. I mean, we haven't developed vaccines against these kinds of viruses, coronaviruses in the past, but it's a fairly stable virus, so it should be reasonably straightforward to be able to develop a vaccine. And there is really an extraordinary effort underway right now to, as rapidly as possible, develop one. But even when we say rapidly as possible,
it remains to be seen what that is. We'll have to pick up on what it looks like to develop this vaccine on the other side of a commercial break.
Okay.
Dr. Carroll and I will return shortly, so don't you go away. You're listening to Mission Evolution, coming to you on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Are you looking for psychic services that empower as well as provide accurate information? Jenny is a third-generation psychic with extensive esoteric training. A practicing professional intuitive for over 30 years, her accuracy is astounding. While most psychics can read what will happen to you if you don't change directions, Jenny understands the future is subjective. While there is a river of time we all traverse, that river has many waves, eddies, currents, and tributaries from which to choose. With Jenny as your guide, you can explore the many possible outcomes in the river of time and navigate your course to the one of your liking. Take control of your future. Book your life-changing session with Jenny today at www.gen-e.net. That's www.gen-e.net.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME.
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet's day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
Hello again. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. To all our faithful and thoughtful listeners, we really value your opinion and would love to hear from you. What are your concerns about the origin of COVID-19? Email me at info@missionevolution.org and give me your thoughts or questions so we can share them on the next show. This in from a member of our audience referencing the episode entitled Surviving COVID-19, One Medical Doctor's Experience. LC shares, I just want to thank you, Gwilda, for bringing Dr. Hanscom on your show. I found hearing about his experience and his message about fear and immunity very reassuring and empowering. Thank you, LC. Dr. Hanscom did offer many valuable tools to help us all through these challenging times. Be well, my friend. Curious, dear audience? Visit our archives at missionevolution.org to listen to Surviving COVID-19, One Medical Doctor's Experience. With us this hour, discussing where COVID-19 came from and where it may be going, is Dr. Dennis Carroll. His website, Global Virome Project.org. Dr. Carroll, we were just getting into the likelihood of a vaccine being formed, and I heard where the Prime Minister of Canada said, well, we're going to be locked down until we get a vaccine. From what you're saying, that could be a while. What's your prediction there?
Well, the most optimistic forecast is that we'll have vaccines that are ready to be used in 12 to 18 months. You know, it's not a straightforward exercise developing a vaccine. You obviously want one that protects you against the virus, but you also want one that doesn't really have a lot of adverse effects as well. And so making sure it's safe and effective is a challenge. But one of the biggest challenges is the scaling up of its production. There are, almost 8 billion people on this planet that are going to need this vaccine. And so how we move as rapidly as possible into successfully generating a vaccine and then achieving that level of unprecedented scale up is going to be extraordinarily challenging.
We're certainly behind the power curve on this one, aren't we?
Well, we certainly are. And, there are going to be some enormous challenges as we go forward, particularly in terms of the issues around equitable access to a vaccine. What we run the risk of is the wealthy countries are going to essentially buy up all of the vaccine. And the wealthy countries are not necessarily the most vulnerable countries. And so we have really a challenge that we should be working on right now as the scientists are looking to develop a vaccine. The global community really needs to come together to work out how do we make sure that equitable and fair access to this vaccine is the primary driver for its distribution. And past examples have not been good. I think we have seen how the purchasing power of vaccines tends to distort the flow of where vaccines go. So it's going to be
and where they need to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is the Global Virome Project working with this as well?
Well, the Global Virome Project is really about generating the kind of information that would be the backbone for future countermeasures. And I think particularly one of the challenges that we have is that even as we develop a vaccine against COVID-19, in all likelihood, we will be faced at some point with a COVID-22, a COVID-24, the next iteration of a coronavirus that spills over and causes a threat.
And that's the one thing I wanted to ask you about. You mentioned that it was stable, but that doesn't indicate that it doesn't mutate. Is that correct?
Well, what it doesn't indicate is that there are other versions of this virus already in existence. We estimate there are about 4,000 to 5,000 other coronaviruses, other kinds of coronaviruses circulating in wildlife. So COVID-19 is not the first, and it's certainly not the last variation on a coronavirus that we'll see. But the point I was going to make is after spending $1 billion, which is what, in effect, developing a COVID-19 virus vaccine will cost, the next iteration of this coronavirus, the next spillover, the vaccine we develop for this one, in all likelihood, will have no cross-reactivity, provide you with no protection against that next coronavirus.
Now, is that like the flu, where it mutates as well, or is this going to be worse in that regard?
No, again, the flu is because that is a far more mutagenic virus than coronaviruses. Influenzas, the way they replicate using a combination of genetic gene swapping allows them to evolve and change in ways which are far more dramatic than what we see in other viruses. So the seasonal flu, all of those are variations on past pandemic viruses that emerged, whether in 1918 or 1957 or 1968 or even 2009. Those viruses evolve in ways which are really quite extraordinary and unique among what we know about how other viruses. So coming up every year with a new seasonal flu vaccine is enormously difficult and enormously challenging. Early speculation is that this particular coronavirus does not evolve with the same kind of dynamics that the influenza virus does. And so there would be hope that the virus over the coming years will be far more stable, and the vaccine that is developed against it will be able to be effective for a longer period of time.
We know the one thing that I'm hearing conflicting information on is once you've had it, then you're immune, or once you've had it, then you're immune, but then you test positive again, or once you've had it, you're a carrier, or you might be carrying it and not showing any symptoms. What can you tell us about all that?
Well, the story is still out. We're making a lot of assumptions about immunity when it comes to this particular virus. There hasn't been enough time yet where it's been circulating and infecting people for us to really know whether someone who's been infected and survives actually has conferred immunity the way we would expect other infections to behave. And even if it does confer immunity, we don't know how long that immunity might last, whether it'll be a few weeks, a few months, or a lifetime. Those are questions that are enormously difficult to answer within the few months that this virus has been circulating. And so it's going to be important, particularly that we pay attention to research coming out of China, which was the first place for this virus. What are we learning about cohort survivors of this pandemic and their natural immunity, and how can we use that information to better understand what that might mean for us as well?
So how long is this, when were the first cases discovered? I take it in 2019 because it's COVID-19, but do you have any idea where when it was first recognized and people were starting to get it?
The first public discussion of it began in early mid-December of 2019. There's some spotty records that suggest it may have been circulating a month or so before that. It's not quite clear. But the first real discussions of this, and the first time it became a discussion of clinical investigation, was in December of 2019.
We have a lot of diseases out there with much higher body count. Why is there so much panic, seemingly, about this one? What's so different?
Well, think the body count, and when you look at the weather begins to cool down, and we'll have another wave of this sweeping across the world, suggesting that it's going to be a much more profound part of our natural landscape for the next 12 plus months than we might hope otherwise. So the point is that when you look at the populations that are infected and the populations who have serious illness and die, there is significant mortality, depending on where you are. If you're in Italy, people over 60 years old, 10% mortality. That's obviously not insignificant. Even people in their 40s having significantly high mortality. So it's a deadly virus.
Oh, it sounds very scary. We are going to have to take another pause. When we get back, I would really like to discuss what we can do to help, protect ourselves. Dr. Carroll and I will return to our discussion shortly, so you stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, coming to you on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
How would your life change if you could develop the business and personal skills that you need in order to make more money? Do you want to learn how to achieve your big life goals faster? Then go to findhiddenmoney.com and get the Goal for It online course. The course teaches you how you can set and achieve your biggest goals while completely overcoming the roadblocks to your goals so that you can realize your dreams and imagine more success. Go to findhiddenmoney.com.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. Audience, if you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution. Did you know our entire Leading Edge information-packed episode collection is available to listen or download with our compliments? Visit our archives at www.missionevolution.org for our ever-growing selection of guests and topics. Our special guest this hour is Dr. Dennis Carroll. We're attempting to demystify COVID-19. His website, globalviromeproject.org. Dr. Carroll, we were getting into how come summer, that the COVID-19 might back off a little bit. Why is that? What's the? I know we see that with the flu. We're probably going to see it with this. Why is that the case?
Well, first off, there was a special expert panel from the National Academy of Sciences, the U.S. National Academy of Sciences, that released a report last week that indicated that they agreed that in all likelihood this virus would not really attenuate itself or begin to disappear with warm weather, but that it would also likely come back in the fall much more robustly. So this is, we had hoped that, as we see with influenzas, as the weather warms up, the influenza virus tends to disappear, and it's with cold, moist weather that it tends to surge. This virus is behaving a bit differently than the influenza viruses at this point.
So what is the cause of the heat versus the cold, wet weather? What does it do to the virus exactly that has it going dormant?
Well, to be honest with you, we don't really understand it. We empirically, we know that there's this behavior, that there is the virus, one, replicates and spreads more easily under conditions where the temperature is cooler and the moisture is high. As temperatures elevate, the virus begins to lessen its replication dynamics, and it tends to essentially go into a hibernation state, if you will. But it's not really understood why that occurs. We know it does, and we plan our public health season around that understanding.
Why weren't we better prepared for this pandemic?
Well, when you think about what's required to be prepared, I think when we look around the world and we see where countries have in fact been able to manage this virus better than other countries, the biggest single factor I think you can attribute to success has been when there's been strong, coherent leadership from central authorities. Where we've seen weak leadership or confused communications, we've seen this virus move much more freely. So when you look at Taiwan, you look at China, you look at South Korea, what they all have in common was leaders who stepped forward early in the process and established a clear national agenda and had their citizens adhere to it. Because this has less to do with having a vaccine or pharmaceutical, and it's really much more to do with people's behaviors. Being able to manage those behaviors in ways that lower risk requires sort of unified action. And that's where we've seen success, and where we've not seen unified action, that's where we've seen failure.
Do you see the United States, where we're really governed state by state on this sort of thing, do you see that as being a major hindrance to slowing this thing down?
Well, I don't see it so much as a hindrance. What I do see as a hindrance was the lack of a national strategy to help the states coordinate their actions. So this isn't about ceding decision-making to Washington, but Washington in many ways has a purview where they're able to see the dynamics of the virus not through a state lens, but through a national lens, which means that they're in a better position to understand its evolving dynamics that may move it from one part of the country to another, and the kinds of actions that you would need to disrupt that movement. That would be led at the state level, but having states coordinate their actions really is a sort of a critical feature here. And we've been fortunate that we have governors that have, in fact, provided leadership that's been lacking from Washington. Even as we heard announcements yesterday that the governors of the northeastern states are forming a regional strategy and plan to coordinate how they will begin to begin to deregulate much of the actions that they've taken for social distancing. And similarly, in the western states, the governors have come together to be able to coordinate how they will do this, when they will do this.
Well, isn't that going to be ultimately the answer, not just at a government level, but at an individual level? Is this coming together and cooperating to slow down the spread of this? Isn't that going to be the answer?
Well, remember this, a virus doesn't spread, we spread the virus. It's our behaviors, our individual actions that collectively build up either the ability to stop the spread of the virus or to enable the spread of the virus. So it is individual actions and individual responsibilities.
Yeah, it's kind of time to wake up and grow up for the populace at large, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What is, you talked about it a little bit earlier, but what's a zoonotic disease?
What kind of disease?
I'm trying to pronounce the word. Zoonotic?
Oh, zoonotic.
Zoonotic, there we go.
We talked about zoonosis earlier, the spillover of viruses or any microbe, could be bacteria or parasites of any type, that jump from an animal into a person. That's a zoonotic disease. Zoonosis is the condition.
Okay, and this has been around like since forever, yes?
Since even before then. Yes, it's been around forever. As long, look, one thing we lose sight of is the fact that we're just one other species on this planet, and from an evolutionary perspective, we're not all that significant. I mean, we like to think so, but viruses move and look for new ecologic niches whenever they can. They're always trying to diversify their host range. It's something that's innate within the way they operate. And we're just one more potential host. No better, no worse than anyone else. And whenever they get an opportunity to explore the opportunity to infect us, they will do it. And more often than not, they won't be able to infect us. But those that can infect us, they've successfully diversified their ecologic niche that one more time. And from an evolutionary perspective, that's important because the viruses that have a very narrow ecologic niche, they only habitate within one species. If that species go extinct, so does the virus. The virus that has a broad ecologic niche is far less vulnerable to extinction as one of its hosts disappears. So it's a really clever application of some basic Darwinian dynamics.
Well, they're certainly outsmarting us at this point.
Yeah.
Another thing I've heard is that there's a difference in how different blood types react to the virus. Like O and Rh negative tend to do better than the A's and the B's. Do you know anything about that?
No, I would have to say again, that's the kind of information that we're still sorting out.
Right. So there's a lot of statements being made out there that are not founded in science. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Look, there's far more we don't know about this virus than we do. Even after studying it and engaging it for 4 months now, the questions that remain unanswered are far more than the questions we've answered.
And, a lot of people are really concerned, information is being withheld. It sounds to me like it's more that we just don't have it.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any information being withheld, and I'm not even sure what the purpose of withholding information would be. The problem is that we tend to share information even before it's definitive. So a lot of the information around the efficacy of different drugs right now, the hydroxychloroquine. There's a lot of speculation that this could be a miracle drug. And we certainly hear that from President Trump. But there's been no clinical trials which have allowed us to really evaluate whether this is true or not. It's all, it's based on really flawed and faulty sort of experiments that could be interpreted any number of ways.
Got it. Okay, well, unfortunately, or fortunately, it's time for another commercial break. Dr. Carroll and I will be back shortly to continue this very enlightening discussion, so don't go away. This is Mission Evolution on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.missionevolution.org.
Watching the X-Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. SIMULTV.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
SIMULTV.com.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
SIMULTV.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. SIMULTV.com.
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME. Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I love to hear from our audience. Your thoughts are very important to me. To suggest a topic or guest that you think would be of interest, email us, info@missionevolution.org. And speaking of gifted people of service to the world, this hour we're sharing thoughts with Dr. Dennis Carroll. His website, globalviromeproject.org. This being our last segment, I would like to discuss what we do know and how we can use what we do know to protect ourselves as individuals and as a culture. So what do you have to say on that one?
Well, I think keep doing what we're doing right now. In those states and cities that have brought physical distancing measures into play, really adhere to them. And personal hygiene, continuing to, always think of yourself as an infected person. We know there are infected people out there who are asymptomatic, but they're capable of spreading the virus. So you should always treat yourself as an infected person when you go out and you are interacting with other people, which means that you need to wear a face mask and you need to make sure you're constantly washing your hands. The odds are, of course, that you're not infected. But if everyone takes the position that they are, then those few who are infected are not going to pass that virus on. And so that, to me, is the important thing. Adhere to what we know. We can stop this virus. Again, they don't spread, we spread them. And it's our behaviors that allow a virus to move from one person to another. And we just have to make sure we adhere to those behaviors which really disrupt that spread. And be vigilant on it.
From being advised to don a hazmat suit, mask up, or simply wrap a bandana around your face, there's a lot of conflicting information, what precautions we should take as an average person. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, there's the perfect intervention, then there's the effective intervention, which maybe isn't perfect, but it's still effective. Anything that goes around your mouth and nose, if you sneeze and cough, and if you are infected, then any virus that you're expelling is going to be encapsulated in spit and mucus. And so if you have some kind of cloth or covering over your nose and mouth, it's not going to move past that covering. And similarly, if you're out on the street and someone is coughing and sneezing, God forbid, without a mask on, then again, the virus is not a free virus. It's encapsulated. It's in a glob of something, and it will likely just get trapped on the outer surface of what it is that you are covering your face and your mouth with, which means that you should always assume when you take off that covering that the outer side of it is in fact covered with viruses, and you should wash it, certainly in some kind of Clorox or Lysol formula that will kill the virus off.
I understand it's fairly fragile virus and not real difficult to kill if you're vigilant.
Well, it's I wouldn't say it's fragile, because it can sit on surfaces for 3, 4, 5, or 6 days.
Oh goodness!
So you have to be careful if you've got metal handrails. People walk along those metal handrails and have sneezed into their hand and then taken their hand and walked down that handrail. And if they've had virus now blown onto their hands, they will leave a trail of viruses on that handrail. So, and those viruses will be good for several days. So you need to make sure that if you walk down and you put your hand on that handrail, you have hand sanitizer and you wash. So it's very susceptible to alcohol, but that alcohol has to be at least 70%. It's certainly susceptible to bleach. So those things will kill the virus, but it does maintain itself in the environment for up to several days.
It sounds like it takes an awful lot of mindfulness, because I'm just sitting here thinking, well, I live clear up in the middle of nowhere. Nobody comes here. I'm all by myself. But the UPS man delivers, and he opens the doorknob into the shipping and receiving shed every time he comes. Yep. So that could possibly be a place that it's spread. If I just take a Clorox wipe and wipe the doorknob daily,
that would be excellent.
We just really have to be a lot more mindful. The one thing that I love that you've brought up is, instead of going out there, we're protecting ourselves, actually, we're protecting each other.
Exactly right. And, it's a good spirit to adopt, that I'm here and I'm going to make sure I'm not going to infect you. And if everyone takes that attitude, we become more of a community of working together and looking out for each other, which in these times, recognizing our interdependence when we spend so much time separated is an important one.
There's a lot of hidden gifts of this pandemic. What do you see them as being?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Mm-hmm. I said, what are the hidden gifts of this pandemic?
The different gifts.
Hidden gifts.
Yeah, the hidden gifts. Well, the silver lining to everything. The silver lining might be that this might be the serious wake-up call for us to really sustain our commitment and our investment into preparing for and preventing events like this from ever happening again. If we walk out of this experience basically saying never again, and committing ourselves as a global community to making those investments that make sure that we are never at risk of a global pandemic wreaking the kind of havoc that we are now experiencing. And we take the steps that we know what we need to do. It's been a failure, however, of sustained commitment, both in terms of resources, but also in terms of practices and policies. And so the silver lining may be that this is enough of a shock to our system that the kinds of investments that need to be made to prevent this from ever happening again will be invested in and sustained as we go forward.
Yeah, it's another interesting thing you brought up, and we're running close to the end of our time now. But, people go into a panic, they go into their back brain, they don't use their logic, and buy up all sorts of things they don't need, don't get what they do need. How can we bring a grounding to that?
Yeah, well, I still have to say I'm shocked whenever I go into the supermarket and find that paper goods are totally non-existent. Paper towels and toilet paper. I have no idea where all of this hoarding for these goods are, but it does shine a light on what it is that we value. And to me, it's a very peculiar thing to elevate to our highest level of concern. As a society, I don't know. It's
very odd, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you see our world changing as a result of COVID-19?
Well, let me just say what I think COVID-19 told us about how the world has changed over the last several years, and hopefully that will have shocked us enough that maybe we can take a few steps back. I mentioned that earlier. The thing that has shocked me most about this pandemic hasn't been the virus at all. It's been the lack of a global response. And in past years, over the course of my 3-4 decades working in this space, whenever we've been faced with a global challenge, the global community has come together. We have various platforms, G20, G7, the United Nations, regional organizations that we've used as a way of reinforcing our shared bond to work together to respond and to address these issues. What we saw with COVID-19, I think, is a consequence of 4 or 5 years of the rise of nationalism and populism that has totally fractured the global communities, which have been so instrumental in the past, so that our response to COVID-19 has been totally fragmented, every country for themselves. And I would hope that as we come out of this experience, we will appreciate just how important our global community is. Acting as one planet is central to our survival. And
Beautiful.
My hope is that we can use this as an opportunity to re-engage and to rebuild and once again see ourselves as part of one planet, one community, one world.
And beautifully stated. And unfortunately, we are out of time. Dr. Carroll, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. Stay safe.
You too, sir. Our guest this hour has been Dr. Dennis Carroll. Dr. Carroll is a biomedical research scientist. He served as the director of the U.S. Agency for International Development's Engineering Threats Division and currently heads the Global Virome Project. His website, globalviromeproject.org. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Join us next time as this mission continues, bringing information, resources, and support to our evolving world. Above all, stay safe, be well. Together, we can do this.